I didn't expect the email to matter. At Merrow and Company Consulting, emails were constant, client revisions, internal updates, calendar invites that swallowed weeks whole. Most of us lived by Outlook notifications and caffeine. So when the subject line popped up on a Tuesday afternoon, I almost ignored it. Mandatory company retreat, Santa Monica Coast. I clicked it out of habit. 3 days. 2 nights. Beachside resort. Team alignment. Leadership workshops. Relationship building. Translation, senior partners watching everyone closely. And at the top of that list was Claire Whitmore. Claire wasn't just a boss. She was the kind of executive people referenced with lowered voices and careful wording. Senior partner. Strategic genius. Known for taking struggling divisions and turning them profitable in under a year. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't micromanage. She simply expected excellence, and somehow got it. I had joined the firm 11 months earlier, fresh off a lateral move that had already cost me 1 promotion at my old job. At Merrow and Company, I'd rebuilt quietly. Solid performance. No drama. No shortcuts. And no unnecessary attention. Especially not from Claire Whitmore. The drive down the coast was beautiful in the way California always was, ocean flashing between cliffs, sunlight stretching across the road like it had nowhere else to be. Most of the team carpooled. I drove alone. Not because I disliked anyone, but because solitude was easier. Less explaining. Less pretending. When I arrived at the resort, I checked in, grabbed my keycard, and headed toward the conference hall where people were already gathering. That's when I heard laughter. Not loud. Not forced. Genuine. I turned. And saw Claire Whitmore standing near the outdoor bar. For a second, I didn't recognize her. She wasn't in a tailored blazer or heels sharp enough to puncture egos. She wore loose linen pants, a white top, and sunglasses pushed into her hair. No laptop. No phone in hand. She looked relaxed. Human. The realization unsettled me more than it should have. In the office, Claire moved like she owned every room she entered. Here, she leaned against the bar, laughing softly as someone from marketing told a story. I watched longer than I meant to. It wasn't attraction, at least, not yet. It was contrast. This version of her existed outside the world I knew. And somehow, that made her feel more powerful, not less. Then she glanced up. Her gaze swept across the beach, stopped briefly on me, and moved on. No recognition. No acknowledgement. Just another employee in the crowd. I should have been relieved. Instead, I felt oddly disappointed. The opening workshop was predictable. Icebreakers. Group goals. Corporate optimism carefully packaged to feel authentic. Claire took the stage briefly, not as a speaker, but as an observer. She stood to the side, arms crossed loosely, listening. Watching. When she spoke, it was concise. "We're here to connect," she said. "But don't confuse comfort with complacency. Use this time wisely." Then she stepped back. That was Claire. Say less. Mean more. After lunch, the schedule loosened. Optional activities. Free time before the evening dinner. Most people scattered. Some went swimming. Others grabbed drinks. A few disappeared back to their rooms. I walked toward the water. The beach was wide and bright, the sound of waves steady and calming. I kicked off my shoes and rolled my sleeves up, letting the breeze cut through the constant buzz in my head. That's when I noticed him. He stood near the bar railing, tall, confident, sunglasses hiding his eyes. He wasn't wearing a company badge. And he wasn't looking at the ocean. He was looking at Claire. Not casually. Not appreciatively. Possessively. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Then I saw her stiffen. Just slightly. Claire was talking to someone when her gaze flicked toward the bar. Her smile didn't disappear, but it tightened, like someone holding a door shut against the wind. She looked away. Then she looked again. Her shoulders squared. And suddenly, she was scanning the beach. When her eyes found mine, they held. For half a second. Then she started walking toward me. I straightened instinctively. She stopped in front of me, the sunlight catching in her hair. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied, unsure why my voice felt heavier than usual. She glanced over her shoulder again, quick and precise. Then she looked back at me. There was calculation in her eyes. Not fear. Decision. "I need you to help me with something," she said. I blinked. "Okay." She stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell sunscreen and something subtly floral. Then she did something I could never have predicted. She sat down. On my LAPDMY body went completely still. Her weight settled naturally, like she'd done this 1,000 times, even though I knew she hadn't. She leaned in slightly, her voice low and calm. "Stay still," she whispered. "My ex is watching." The word ex landed harder than it should have. My heart hammered against my ribs. Her hand rested lightly on my forearm, not gripping, not shaking. Controlled. Across the beach, the man by the bar froze. Stared. And Claire smiled like she was perfectly at ease. The first thing I noticed was how normal she made it look. Like sitting on my lap in the middle of a company retreat was no different than taking a seat in a conference room. Claire shifted slightly, settling her weight as if she'd measured the space beforehand. Her back was straight. Her shoulders relaxed. If anyone glanced our way, it looked harmless. Intimate, maybe. But not inappropriate. That was the most unsettling part. "Don't move," she whispered again, her lips close enough that I felt the warmth of her breath. "Please." The word "please" did something to me. I swallowed. "I'm not moving." Her hand tightened just a fraction on my arm, then relaxed. "Thank you." Across the beach, her ex, because there was no doubt now, had gone completely still. He leaned forward against the railing, jaw clenched, watching us like he was trying to solve a puzzle that offended him. Claire followed my gaze without turning her head. "He always stands like that when he's angry," she murmured. Like the world owes him an explanation. I didn't respond. I wasn't sure I trusted my voice. Time stretched in a way that felt unreal. The sound of the ocean faded in and out. Laughter drifted from somewhere behind us. A volleyball thudded against sand. But here, where Claire sat, calm and composed, like she belonged there, everything narrowed. She adjusted her posture again, careful and deliberate. "I know this is a lot," she said quietly. "If you want me to get up, say the word." I could have. I should have. But something in her tone wasn't confident, it was measured, like she was allowing herself one moment of vulnerability and trusting me not to exploit it. "Stay," I said. She exhaled slowly. "Okay." Her body softened just a little. Minutes passed. Her ex didn't look away. "Why is he here?" I asked softly. She hesitated, eyes fixed on the horizon. "He found out about the retreat," she said. "He always knew where to look when he wanted to remind me of who I used to be." I frowned. "That doesn't sound healthy." A faint smile crossed her lips. "It wasn't." She paused. 5 years together, she added. 2 living together. 1 engagement. That caught my attention. "What happened?" Her jaw tightened. He cheated, she said. Then told me it was because I worked too much. I felt something twist in my chest, anger, maybe. Or disbelief. What happens here, she said lightly, stays here. And she walked away, blending back into the retreat like nothing had happened. I stayed where I was long after she left. The imprint of her presence felt oddly real, like a conversation my body hadn't finished processing. I told myself it was nothing. A moment. A favor. But as I watched the waves roll in, one thought wouldn't let go. Claire Whitmore hadn't chosen just anyone. She had chosen me. And I didn't know what that meant yet. That night, I couldn't sleep. The ocean outside my balcony roared steadily, like it was trying to drown out my thoughts. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, replaying the afternoon again and again, not the way she sat down, not even the way her ex stared, but the calm in her voice when she said my name. She hadn't used it often before. When she did, it sounded personal. I told myself it was just adrenaline. An unusual moment in an unusual place. Tomorrow, things would reset. They always did. But the next morning proved me wrong. I arrived early to the breakfast area, hoping to avoid conversation. No such luck. Claire was already there. She stood near the coffee station, hair still damp, dressed simply, dark jeans, a soft sweater, no makeup beyond the basics. She looked rested. Lighter. When she noticed me, she hesitated, just a fraction, then walked over. "Good morning," she said. "Morning." A pause. Then, quieter, "Did you sleep?" I smiled faintly. "Not really." She nodded. "Me neither." We stood there in silence that felt oddly comfortable. "I didn't get to explain everything yesterday," she said. "And I think you deserve that." The schedule didn't start for another hour. The beach was nearly empty, the sand cool beneath our feet. We walked side by side, not touching. Not rushing. "He's not dangerous," she said finally. "Just persistent. And entitled. Because you were together so long?" She shook her head. "Because he never thought I'd leave." She told me about the early years, how they met before her career took off, how he supported her when success was small and manageable. "And then," she said, stopping near the water, "I became something he couldn't control." She looked at the horizon, not at me. "He cheated," she continued. Then blamed me for not being present enough to notice. That familiar story made my jaw tighten. "And when you left?" I asked. "He laughed," she said. "Said I'd be back." I understood then why yesterday hadn't been about jealousy. It had been about identity. "He didn't expect to see you with someone else," I said. She smiled slightly. "No. He didn't." She turned toward me. "I didn't choose you because you were convenient," she said. "I chose you because you felt safe." The word landed carefully. "You don't see me as something to conquer," she continued. "You see me as someone who decides." I held her gaze. "That's because you are." Her expression softened. Back at the resort, the day resumed its usual rhythm. Workshops. Group sessions. Professional smiles. But something had shifted. She still corrected people sharply. Still led decisively. But when our eyes met across the room, there was recognition. Not flirtation. Respect. That evening, during dinner, her ex appeared again, this time closer. Claire didn't flinch. She didn't move toward me either. She simply stayed seated, composed, independent. He left after 10 minutes. This time, she didn't watch him go. Later, as people drifted away, Claire found me near the fire pit. "I want to be clear," she said. What happened yesterday doesn't change how I lead, or how you're treated at work. I wouldn't expect it to, I replied. She nodded. But it did change how I see you. I waited. You didn't try to impress me, she said. You didn't assume. You didn't push. She met my eyes. That matters. The fire crackled between us. When we said goodnight, there was no hug. No lingering touch. Just a shared understanding that something had begun, quietly, deliberately. Back in my room, I realized something else. Claire Whitmore wasn't broken by her past. She had survived it. And yesterday, sitting on my lap at the beach, she hadn't been reclaiming power. She had been confirming it. The retreat ended quietly. No dramatic goodbyes. No lingering looks that anyone else could notice. Just professional smiles, polite conversations, and the steady hum of engines as everyone drove back to their real lives. I kept expecting something to happen on the last morning. Another moment. Another explanation. Another unexpected choice. But Claire Whitmore boarded her car, sunglasses on, phone already in hand, and left like the weekend had been nothing more than a line item on a calendar. That should have been my answer. Monday morning hit hard. The office smelled like burnt coffee and printer ink. People complained about traffic, deadlines, inboxes overflowing after being ignored for 3 days. Normal life. Claire was already in her office when I arrived. Door closed. Blinds half drawn. Senior partner mode, fully restored. I told myself that was good. Healthy. Necessary. Still, when she walked into the weekly strategy meeting, something felt different. Not in the way she spoke. In the way she listened. Later, as people drifted away, Claire found me near the fire pit. I want to be clear, she said. What happened yesterday doesn't change how I lead, or how you're treated at work. I wouldn't expect it to, I replied. She nodded. But it did change how I see you. She asked my opinion first. Not last. Not as an afterthought. Thoughts, she said, eyes settling on me across the table. The room went quiet. I gave my analysis, careful, measured. When I finished, she nodded once. Exactly, she said. That's the direction we'll take. No praise. No smile. But something in her tone made my chest tighten. People noticed. For 2 weeks, nothing crossed a line. No private conversations. No after-hours messages. No repeat of the beach moment. And yet. She lingered near my desk sometimes. Asked questions she already knew the answer to. Defended my work when others challenged it. Never overtly. Always just enough. It felt intentional. And restrained. It came late on a Thursday. Most of the floor was empty. The city outside my window glowed with traffic and rain. From Claire Whitmore. Subject, still working? I stared at the screen longer than necessary. Me. Yes. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then. Claire. Come by my office when you're done. No emojis. No explanations. Just a request that felt heavier than any meeting invite. Her office lights were dimmer than usual. Jacket draped over a chair. Heels kicked off near the desk. She didn't tell me to sit. She didn't tell me to leave either. I've been thinking about the beach, she said. So had I. I shouldn't have put you in that position, she continued. You didn't ask for it. I didn't regret it, I said carefully. She looked at me then, not guarded, not distant. Honest. That's what worries me, she said softly. She moved closer, stopping at a respectful distance. There's a power imbalance here, she said. And I won't pretend there isn't. I know, I replied. I don't want to jeopardize your career, she added. I don't feel jeopardized. Silence filled the space between us. Then she said the words neither of us had planned. I'd like to get to know you, outside this building. My heartbeat was loud in my ears. As equals, she added quickly. Only if you're comfortable. I didn't hesitate. I am. She exhaled, like she'd been holding that breath since Santa Monica. Dinner, she said. Off the record. When? She smiled, small, controlled, genuine. Tomorrow. The restaurant was quiet. Not empty, just intimate. Dim lights, soft jazz, the faint smell of lemon and olive oil lingering in the air. I had arrived early, nervously adjusting my tie and scanning the room, reminding myself that this wasn't a work event. It was something else. Claire arrived 10 minutes later. Her presence changed the atmosphere. She didn't walk, she glided, confident, natural. No blazer, no heels sharp enough to puncture egos, just casual elegance that somehow made the world feel smaller, more personal. When she sat down across from me, the world outside the window seemed to blur. Thank you for coming, she said simply. I smiled. I wouldn't miss it. She looked at me for a long moment, as though she were measuring how much of herself to share tonight. We started cautiously. Not the forced, polite conversation of colleagues. Not the strategic words of people who measured every sentence. Real conversation. She spoke about her childhood in San Diego, the small apartment where she first learned to balance work and dreams. She laughed about burnt pancakes on Sunday mornings. She admitted she still remembered every rejection she had faced early in her career, and how she turned them into motivation. I shared smaller details. The local coffee shop I frequented, the fact that I still wrote letters to myself in a journal I kept since college, the embarrassing way I danced when no one was watching. No office titles. No hierarchy. No power dynamics. Just two people, carefully unfolding. Eventually, the conversation returned to the beach. I need to be honest, she said, looking directly at me. Yesterday, that was unusual. Not professional. Not expected. And it crossed a line. I know, I said. I don't want things to be complicated at work. She nodded. Me neither. That's why we have to set boundaries. I realized then that she was as deliberate here as she had been on the sand. No impulsive moves. No careless mistakes. I respect that, I said. Good, she replied. A small smile tugged at her lips. Because I don't do games. I don't do drama. And I don't hurt people without reason. I appreciated that. Deeply. The waiter brought our main courses. The smell of roasted vegetables and grilled fish mingled with the subtle aroma of her perfume. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was intentional. She leaned forward slightly, her elbows resting lightly on the table. I chose to sit on your lap yesterday for a reason, she said quietly. I blinked. Why? To reclaim my space, she said. And, to see if you'd respect it. I tried, I said, meeting her gaze. She smiled softly. Good. The way she said it felt like praise and acknowledgement all at once. That was the moment I realized, this wasn't about temptation or control. It was about trust. After dinner, we walked along the quiet streets near the marina. Lights reflected on the water, boats gently rocking. She fell into step beside me. Not ahead. Not behind. Thank you for tonight, she said softly. For what? For seeing me, she replied. Not my title. Not my reputation. Me. I didn't respond immediately. Words felt inadequate. Instead, I offered her my arm. She took it. It wasn't a gesture of dominance. It wasn't a claim. It was simple. Mutual. Equal. And it felt right. That night, before parting ways, we paused at her car. "Tomorrow," she said, "we go back to the office. Normal work. Normal rules." I nodded. Normal. She gave a small, genuine smile. And tonight, we were just two people. That's all I ask. I felt a quiet relief. Boundaries were respected, choices were mutual. And somewhere inside, I knew that was the beginning of something real. Weeks passed. The office resumed its rhythm. Deadlines loomed. Meetings dragged on. Reports piled high. But between us, something subtle and undeniable had shifted. Claire Whitmore was still the senior partner. Sharp. Commanding. Brilliant. And yet, there were moments, glances, lingering touches on a folder, a smile that lasted a second too long, when she reminded me that she was also human. It started small. A coffee cup left on my desk, anonymously. A thoughtful email checking in on a project I hadn't even mentioned to her. A quick comment in a meeting that validated my work in front of the team. Nothing overt. Nothing indiscreet. Just careful acknowledgement. It was deliberate, but not forced. It was her way of saying, "I notice you. I respect you. I choose you, even in a world that doesn't know it yet." One Thursday afternoon, the past tried to interrupt. I saw him before Claire did, her ex, striding into the lobby, sunglasses on, posture deliberate. Claire didn't flinch. She didn't hesitate. She didn't even pause mid-step. Instead, she smiled slightly, excused herself from her meeting, and walked confidently toward him. I followed at a distance, heart pounding. He stopped her halfway. Words were exchanged. Low. Tense. From what I could overhear. "I thought you'd come back to me," he said. "I don't do that anymore," she replied calmly. "You'll regret this," he muttered. "I've made my choice," she said firmly. Then she turned, back straight, and walked past him, toward me. That evening, we walked along the same stretch of beach from the retreat. No audience. No ex. Just waves, sand, and fading sunlight. "You were calm today," I said. "I had to be," she replied. "Some things are easier when you're sure of yourself." I realized then that yesterday, the beach, the retreat, and even the awkward moment where she sat on my lap, it wasn't a game. It wasn't manipulation. It was her reclaiming her life. And she had chosen me as part of it. We paused near the water. The air was cool. The tide lapped gently at our feet. "I could have lost my balance today," she said, smiling. "You mean with him?" I asked. She shook her head. "No. With me. With feeling something real." I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. "Then let's not pretend anymore," I said softly. She nodded. Eyes glistening slightly. "Agreed," she whispered. We walked slowly along the shoreline, fingers intertwined, letting the waves crash and recede around us. From that night on, we were intentional. No secrets. No games. No pretending. We kept professional boundaries at work but allowed moments outside the office to flourish naturally. Lunches turned into dinners. Casual coffee into late-night walks. Every moment was a choice, mutual and deliberate. We were careful. Respectful. Equal. And it felt more powerful than anything either of us had experienced before. Months later, on the anniversary of that first beach day, we returned. No one watching. No tension from the past. Just us. Claire stopped at the same spot, looked at me, and smiled. "You know," she said, "I sat on your lap that day to remind someone else that they don't own me." I raised an eyebrow. "And now?" She intertwined her fingers with mine, looking out at the endless horizon. "Now I just sit where I belong." And for the first time, everything felt exactly right.